Ladies and gentlemen, there is a power in this universe greater than any obstacle you will ever face. A power that sees beyond your current circumstances, hears the silent cries of your heart, and answers not just your words, but your faith. That power is God. And I want to remind you today, God is always listening. When you wake up uncertain, He hears you. When you work hard and see no immediate result, He sees you. When you pray through tears no one else notices, He listens. Napoleon Hill once said, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But let me tell you something even more powerful. When your mind believes and your heart connects to God, nothing is impossible. Faith is not just a feel-good concept or a vague sense of hope. It is a deliberate, strategic force that can transform your life when truly understood and practiced. In the teachings of Napoleon Hill, success begins in the mind. He taught that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. That belief, that inner certainty, is faith in action. It's more than positive thinking. It's spiritual alignment with the idea that what you seek is already on its way, that your vision is not just possible, but inevitable, with belief and action. When you apply that same principle in the context of your relationship with God, it becomes even more powerful, because you're no longer relying on yourself alone. You're partnering with a divine power that sees beyond your limitations. You're stepping into the understanding that God is always listening, and that faith is your bridge between where you are and where He is guiding you to go. Think about it. Every great achievement starts with a moment of belief, sometimes shaky, sometimes bold, but always present. Faith is the inner voice that whispers, "Keep going," when logic says to quit. It's the light you carry in your heart when the path in front of you is dark. It's not blind optimism, it's vision. Vision rooted in trust. Trust that your prayers are heard, even when they seem unanswered. Trust that your dreams were placed in you by God Himself, and that He listens when you speak them aloud, or even when you hold them silently in your soul. Faith is also action. It's movement. It's not sitting still waiting for things to happen. It's believing so deeply that you begin to prepare in advance. It's building the ark before the rain. It's applying for the opportunity before the door is open. It's stepping into the arena, knowing God is in your corner. When Napoleon Hill wrote about definiteness of purpose, he didn't just mean having a plan. He meant having a belief so firm in your calling that nothing could shake it. That kind of belief, when it's coupled with faith in God's presence and His constant listening ear, becomes unstoppable. Now let's be honest. Faith doesn't mean everything goes smoothly. It doesn't guarantee immediate answers or visible signs. In fact, the greatest acts of faith often happen in the silence, in the moments where it feels like nothing is happening. That's where strategy comes in. A person of faith knows that even in the silence, God is at work. Even when the doors haven't opened, the walls haven't moved, and the answers haven't arrived, the strategy is to keep believing, keep praying, keep showing up. That's spiritual discipline. That's confidence not in yourself alone, but in the one who listens, sees, and cares about your every word and every step. The truth is, God responds to faith, not just to desperation, not just to need, but to faith. That's why it's a strategy. It's a way of life that says, even if I can't see it yet, I believe it's already done. Even if I feel small, I believe my voice matters to God. Even if I've failed before, I believe this time is different, because I'm not walking alone. That shift from fear to faith, from doubt to belief, is where breakthroughs happen. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need perfect faith. You don't need to have it all figured out. God doesn't wait for you to be flawless before He listens. He just asks that you come sincerely, with a heart willing to believe, even just a little. Remember what Jesus said, "If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move mountains." That means even the smallest spark of belief can set powerful things in motion, because God is always listening. He hears the trembling voice as clearly as the bold declaration. He sees the silent tear as vividly as the public praise. So today, choose to see faith as more than a feeling. Let it be your strategy. Let it guide your decisions, shape your mindset, and fuel your actions. Align your faith with your goals, your purpose, your vision, and above all, with the truth that you are never alone in your journey. Because when you walk by faith, and you know that God hears every step, there is nothing that can stand in your way. Prayer is not just a routine or a quiet whisper before bed. It's not a string of words spoken into the air, hoping something or someone out there hears them. No, prayer is power. It is spiritual communication that taps into the highest source of strength, wisdom, and love in the universe. When you understand what prayer truly is, you stop treating it like a last resort heart, and you start using it as your first response. Because in every moment of stillness, in every word you speak with sincerity and faith, God is listening. We live in a world that moves fast, that glorifies action, noise, and results. But what if I told you that some of your greatest breakthroughs begin in silence? That the most life-changing decisions, the most divine guidance, the most unexpected miracles begin not with action, but with a conversation between your heart and God's. That's prayer. That's the secret weapon that so many people overlook. Napoleon Hill taught us that thoughts are powerful, that they shape our reality. But when your thoughts become intentional words, directed toward your Creator, they carry supernatural weight. Prayer is more than speaking. It's creating. It is a declaration of faith. It's your way of saying, I believe I am heard. I believe my voice matters. I believe something greater is working on my behalf. Think of how amazing that is. The God who created galaxies, the God who holds the oceans in his hand, listens, really listens, when you speak. Whether it's through joy or frustration, fear or hope, your words don't bounce off the walls of your room. They rise like incense to the throne of heaven. They matter. You matter. There is power in that. But prayer isn't just about asking for things. It's about alignment. It's about tuning your mind and spirit to a higher frequency, one where your purpose becomes clearer and your strength becomes deeper. When you pray, you're not trying to change God's mind. You're allowing him to change yours. You're opening up space inside your heart for peace, clarity, direction, and courage. And that, my friend, is powerful. There's a reason prayer is so deeply embedded in every faith, every culture, every human experience. It's because there's something in us that knows we are not alone, that there is more to this life than just what we see, that there is someone who sees what we can't, who knows what we need before we ask, and who loves us enough to listen, even when we don't know what to say. So yes, prayer is power. It's the moment where your natural self connects with the supernatural. It's where your worries turn into surrender. It's where your questions become conversations, and you don't need fancy words or perfect timing. All you need is honesty. All you need is the courage to speak and the faith to believe that God hears you. Some of the most powerful prayers are just a few words long. Help me, guide me, thank you, I'm scared. These are not weak words. They are not small. They are weapons. They are keys that open doors in the spiritual realm. Because what moves God is not how eloquent you are, but how real you are. And here's something else. Prayer doesn't always change your situation right away, but it always changes you. Sometimes the peace you feel after praying is the answer. Sometimes God calms the storm. Other times, he calms you in the middle of it. Either way, something powerful happens every time you pray, even if you don't see it yet. If you've ever wondered if your prayers matter, let me assure you, they do. They're heard, they're remembered, they're cherished, and often, they're answered in ways you never expected. God is not a distant observer. He is a loving Father. He is close to the brokenhearted. He is attentive to the cry of the righteous. He is with you in the whisper and the roar. So pray boldly. Pray honestly. Pray persistently. Don't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect words. Just speak. God already knows your heart, but he loves to hear your voice. And the more you pray, the more you'll realize that you're not just speaking into the air. You're tapping into power. You're aligning with purpose. You're connecting with the one who holds the answers, the keys, and the future. Prayer isn't a backup plan. It's the foundation. It's not just part of your spiritual life. It is your spiritual life. And once you realize that, you'll never look at it the same way again. You'll know this isn't just a ritual. It's not just words. It's power. Persistence is one of the most powerful forces in life. It's the decision to keep going, even when the path is steep, the night is long, and the results seem slow. In Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill placed enormous value on persistence, calling it an essential trait of all successful people. Why? Because persistence proves belief. It shows commitment. It signals to the world, and to God, that you're serious about your vision, your calling, and your purpose. Now when we talk about faith and prayer, many people believe that once they ask God for something, that should be enough. But here's the truth. God responds not only to the request, but to the persistence behind it. Just like in life, where goals require follow-through and effort, in the spiritual realm, faith is often tested through persistence. And when you choose to keep showing up, when you pray again, believe again, try again, you are saying to God, I trust you, even when I don't see anything yet. That level of faith gets heaven's attention. Persistence is not about nagging God. It's about developing you. It's about building your spiritual muscles. Every time you choose to believe again, even after disappointment, your faith deepens. Every time you pray again, even when you feel unheard, your spirit grows stronger. God is not ignoring you. He's shaping you. Because the blessing isn't just in what you're praying for. It's in who you're becoming in the process. Jesus himself told a story about persistence in prayer. The parable of the persistent widow and the unjust judge. The widow kept coming back, day after day, asking for justice. She didn't stop. She didn't give up. And eventually, even the judge who didn't fear God or care about people, granted her request because of her persistence. And Jesus said, "Will not God bring about justice for his chosen ones, who cry out to him day and night?" He was teaching us something powerful. God honors persistence, not because he needs convincing, but because you need strengthening. See, every time you persist in faith, you're planting seeds. And just like a farmer doesn't see the harvest the same day he plants, you may not see the results right away. But that doesn't mean your prayer isn't working. It means something is happening beneath the surface. Roots are growing, foundations are forming, timing is aligning, and when the harvest comes, it won't just be about the answer. It'll be about the character, resilience, and trust you built while waiting. So if you've been praying for something and haven't seen it yet, don't stop. If you've been believing for change, for healing, for breakthrough, and you're tempted to give up, don't. God hears you. He has not forgotten you. He is not tired of your voice. In fact, he's drawn to it. Your persistence is proof that your faith is alive, and faith is what moves mountains. Remember, the greatest stories in Scripture are filled with people who had to persist. Abraham waited years for the child God promised. Joseph endured betrayal, slavery, and prison before reaching the palace. Hannah wept and prayed for a child, until God answered. These weren't instant victories. They were hard-fought, faith-filled, persistent journeys, and they are in the Bible not just to inspire you, but to show you that persistence is part of the process. When you persist, you develop patience. When you persist, you develop patience. When you persist, you deepen trust. When you persist, you align more fully with God's purpose. Because now your heart is not just focused on what you want, but why you want it, and who you're becoming along the way. So keep showing up in faith. Keep knocking. Keep seeking. Keep asking. God is not offended by your persistence. He welcomes it. He rewards it. And while you may be waiting for the breakthrough, he's already working behind the scenes, setting things into motion that you cannot yet see. Persistence doesn't mean you lack faith. It means your faith is alive. It means you trust God enough to keep believing when there's no sign, to keep praying when there's no answer, to keep hoping when there's no visible change. That kind of faith, the kind that persists, is the kind that heaven honors. And when you persist in the presence of God, you're not just chasing a dream, you're walking in your destiny. So don't give up. Don't let go. God is always listening, and your persistence is not in vain. Your answer is coming, and it will be worth every moment you chose to believe, to wait, and to keep moving forward. There is tremendous power in the words you speak. Every time you open your mouth to pray, to declare, or even to whisper your dreams, you're releasing energy into the atmosphere, and more importantly into the ears of a God who is always listening. But it's not just about speaking for the sake of speaking. It's about speaking with purpose and listening with expectation. That's where the real shift happens, not just in your situation, but in your spirit. You see, words are creative. Scripture says that life and death are in the power of the tongue. That means what you say matters. What you speak over your life, your family, your future, it carries weight. And when your words are aligned with faith and God's promises, they become declarations of destiny. They are no longer just requests. They are statements of intention. They are affirmations of trust. They say, "I believe God hears me, and I believe he will respond." This is where many people fall short. They speak without clarity. They talk to God like they're not really sure if he's paying attention. But here's the truth. God is not distant. He's not too busy. He is near, and he is listening, not just to the sound of your voice, but to the intent behind it. So don't speak out of fear. Don't pray out of habit. Speak with purpose. Pray with focus. When you talk to God, mean it. Be bold. Be specific. Be honest. You're not speaking to a stranger. You're speaking to the one who knows you better than anyone else ever could. But just as important as speaking with purpose is the discipline of listening with expectation. That's the part many people skip. We ask, we declare, we speak our truth, but we don't always pause to listen. And yet that's often where the answer lies. That's where the guidance, the peace, the clarity, and the next step are revealed. Listening with expectation means you believe God not only hears you, but that he will speak back. It's sitting in stillness, not just for silence sake, but because you trust that heaven has a response. Maybe it comes through a thought, a verse, a conversation, a feeling in your spirit that you can't explain. But make no mistake, God speaks. The question is, are you listening? When you pray, you're opening up a two-way conversation. This isn't a one-sided monologue. You're not just venting to the sky. You're communing with your Creator. And if you take the time to still your mind and quiet your heart, you'll find that God does speak. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes it's loud. Sometimes it's not what you wanted to hear. But if you're listening with expectation, you'll recognize his voice in places you never imagined. Napoleon Hill talked about the power of auto-suggestion, training your mind through repeated, intentional statements. That concept is rooted in belief that your inner world shapes your outer world. When you combine that principle with faith, it becomes even more powerful. You're not just repeating positive affirmations. You're speaking God's promises over your life. And when you speak His truth with purpose, you begin to believe it. You begin to act on it. And as your actions align with your words, and your words align with your faith, your entire reality starts to shift. But it's not enough to just speak and move on. Expect God to move. Expect answers. Expect direction. Don't just say the prayer and then live like nothing's going to happen. Faith expects. Faith looks forward. Faith listens with hope, not with hesitation. You may not hear an answer the moment you speak, but that doesn't mean God is silent. He may be answering in the stillness, in the delay, in the unexpected. And when you walk through life with both purposeful speech and open ears, you will be amazed at how God starts to reveal things that were there all along, but you were too rushed or distracted to notice.
So speak with purpose.
Speak life, speak faith, and then wait, watch,
Listen.
expect. Your words are seeds, and God is the God. Let Him water them in His time. Let Him bring the harvest in His way. Because when you speak with clarity and listen with expectation, you're not just talking to God, you're partnering with Him, and that's when the miracles begin. There are times when you pray and feel the presence of God so clearly. It's like heaven is touching earth. But then there are other times, days, weeks, maybe even years, when you hear nothing. You pray and the silence is deafening. You ask for a sign, and nothing shows up. You wait for the breakthrough, but all you get is stillness. And it's in those moments that doubt creeps in. You begin to wonder, is God even listening? Let me tell you something that can change the way you walk through those seasons. Even in the silence, God is working. Just because He's quiet doesn't mean He's absent. Just because He hasn't answered yet doesn't mean He hasn't heard. Silence is not the same as stillness. God might not be speaking to you the way you expected, but that doesn't mean He's not moving on your behalf behind the scenes. In fact, some of God's most powerful work happens in silence. Think about a seed planted in the ground. Once it's buried, you can't see it. You don't hear it, but something is happening. The roots are forming. The process of life is beginning. And if you're patient enough, one day you'll see the growth break through the surface. It was never dead. It was developing. That's exactly what God is doing in the quiet seasons of your life. Napoleon Hill emphasized that faith must endure beyond emotion. It must hold steady beyond circumstances. And when we apply that truth spiritually, we discover a deeper layer of trust. One that says, even when I don't feel God, I believe He's near. Even when I can't hear Him, I trust He's working. That kind of faith is mature. That kind of faith sustains you when everything else tells you to give up. You see, silence from God is not a punishment. It's a part of the process. Sometimes God is silent because He's preparing you. Sometimes He's silent because the timing isn't right. Other times, the silence is there to grow your faith, to strengthen your dependence on Him, not on signs or feelings, but on the unshakable truth that He is faithful. It's easy to trust when the blessings are flowing, when the prayers are being answered quickly, when everything is lining up. But real faith is proven in the waiting. Real faith is tested in the in-between, when nothing makes sense, and all you can do is hold on to the promise. And let me remind you, God never makes a promise He doesn't intend to keep. If you're in a season of silence right now, don't assume the worst. Don't let discouragement steal your hope. Use this time to lean in closer. Develop your patience. Deepen your roots. Sometimes when you can't hear His voice, it's because He's calling you to trust His heart. And you're not alone in this. The Bible is full of people who experienced God's silence before their greatest breakthroughs. Joseph sat in a prison for years before he saw the fulfillment of his dreams. David was anointed king, but had to run and hide in caves before ever sitting on the throne. Jesus Himself was silent during some of his most painful moments. Yet even then, the redemption of the world was being accomplished. What if your silence is sacred? What if this quiet season is not wasted, but woven into your destiny? What if the delay is actually divine? You may not see it yet, but God is orchestrating something. Doors are being prepared. People are being moved into place. You are being strengthened. Character is being built. And when the time is right, the silence will break, and you'll realize that God was never gone. He was simply setting the stage. So don't give up in the quiet. Don't stop praying just because you don't hear a reply. Keep showing up. Keep believing. Keep expecting. The silence is not the end. It's the setup. Trust that even now, even here, even without a sound, God is working. Because the God who promised is the God who performs. And just because he's silent doesn't mean he isn't speaking in a way. Your soul will understand in time. Stay faithful. Your miracle is already in motion. There is something incredibly powerful about faith. Not just belief in theory, but real, raw, unshakable faith. The kind that believes before the evidence shows up. The kind that prays like it's already done. The kind that refuses to let go, no matter what. Faith is the invisible thread that connects your voice to God's heart. It is the force that turns everyday conversations with God into extraordinary miracles. You see, when you speak to God, you're not just talking, you're connecting. But what turns those prayers into miracles is not just the words themselves, it's the faith behind them. Faith is the spark that brings your words to life. It's what lifts them out of the ordinary and into the supernatural. Because God is not moved by formulas. He is moved by faith. Faith doesn't wait till everything is perfect to start speaking. It doesn't need to have all the answers. It doesn't rely. It's rely. Faith says, I'm going to speak this, believe this, and act on because I trust who God, not just what I see. And when you combine faith with prayer, you ignite something divine. Suddenly, your words become more than requests. They become declarations. Your prayers become partnerships. Your conversations become catalysts for change. There are moments when all it takes is one whisper of faith to move the hand of heaven. One sentence, spoken with boldness and trust, can shift your entire reality. Jesus said it himself. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move, and it will. Notice he didn't say to beg the mountain or run from it. He said to speak to it and believe. So many people wonder why their prayers feel powerless, why they feel like nothing's changing. But the question is, are you praying with faith? Are you just repeating words, or are you speaking with full belief that the one you're talking to is able to do what you're asking for? Faith is not passive. It's not timid. It is active. It is bold. And it is fierce. And when faith shows up, heaven responds. Think about the woman with the issue of blood. She didn't even speak directly to Jesus. She just reached out in faith, believing that if she could just touch the hem of his garment, she would be healed. That belief, that inner faith, unlocked her miracle. Or take the Roman centurion, who told Jesus, just say the word, and my servant will be healed. He understood that faith in the authority of Christ was enough, and Jesus marveled at his belief. Miracles happen when faith meets action, and sometimes that action is simply prayer. Sometimes it's showing up one more time, opening your heart one more time, praying one more time, even when you don't feel like. Faith isn't about having all the strength. It's about trusting in the one who is your strength. Napoleon Hill taught that faith is the foundation of all success. It is the starting point of all achievement. But when you put that same principle in your spiritual life, it becomes even more powerful. Because now, your faith isn't just drawing success toward you. It's drawing divine intervention. It's inviting God into your plans, your pain, your purpose. And when God gets involved, the impossible becomes possible. So don't underestimate your conversations with God. Don't think they're too small or too ordinary. Speak with faith. Speak with belief. Even if your voice shakes, even if your hands tremble, say it. Declare healing. Declare breakthrough. Declare peace. Speak life over your future, over your family, over your dreams. And then expect God to move. Because when faith is present, even the quietest prayer becomes a shout in the heavens. Faith doesn't mean you won't face fear. It means you won't let fear stop you from believing. It doesn't mean you'll always see immediate results, but it does mean you'll keep praying anyway, because you know who holds the outcome. Your words, backed by faith, have power, not because of who you are, but because of who you're talking to. God listens, and when faith enters the room, miracles begin to manifest. So today, speak like you believe it's already done. Pray like heaven is leading you, and trust that even now, even here, your faith is turning your conversations into miracles. Gratitude is one of the most overlooked yet most powerful spiritual tools we have. It doesn't always change your situation instantly, but it always changes you, and that alone can transform everything. When you develop a heart of gratitude, especially in the waiting, in the struggle, and in the silence, you unlock a divine flow in your life. Gratitude says, God, I trust you enough to praise you before the miracle comes. I trust you enough to say thank you, even when I'm still praying. You see, when you express gratitude, you're not just being polite. You're shifting your posture. You're moving from frustration to faith, from doubt to trust, from scarcity to abundance. Gratitude is a declaration. God, I see your hand in this, even if I don't see the full picture yet. And that shift in your spirit makes room for God to move even more. So many people are waiting to feel grateful before they speak it. But gratitude isn't just a response to good news. It's a lifestyle. It's a decision. And when you choose to thank God in advance, you're showing him that you believe he's already working things out. That kind of faith, expressed through gratitude, draws the attention of heaven. Remember when Jesus multiplied the loaves and fish, before the miracle even happened, he gave thanks. Before the food, before the pie, before the crowd was fed, Jesus paused to thank God. Why? Because gratitude sets the stage for the miraculous. It prepares your heart to receive. It shifts your focus from what's missing to what's possible. Napoleon Hill said that a positive mental attitude is one of the keys to success, and gratitude is the soil in which that attitude grows. It's hard to complain and be grateful at the same time. It's hard to fear and be thankful in the same breath. Gratitude reorients your mind and spirit. It reminds you of what's already good, what's already working, what God has already done. And when you focus on that, your faith naturally expands to believe for more. Even science backs it up. People who practice daily gratitude experience greater peace, clearer focus, and deeper resilience. But what's even more important than how gratitude changes you mentally is how it positions you spiritually. When you live in gratitude, you stay aligned with heaven's frequency. You tune your spirit to recognize blessings, even before they arrive. Some of the most powerful breakthroughs in life come not after begging, but after thanking. What if instead of asking God over and over for what you need, you begin thanking him that it's already being done? What if your next level of faith isn't in another prayer, but in a heartfelt thank you?